All right, folks, we are live. Hey, we'll let everybody jump in here. We already got a bunch of folks jumping in, commenting. Hey, we appreciate that. If you are watching now and you haven't commented yet, go ahead and throw up a salutation and say hello. I want to welcome everybody to the Dangerous Liberty podcast, where the only thing more dangerous than liberty itself is the lack thereof. And as you guys know, we always have special guests. We talk about different topics, guns, gear. Tonight we have a very special guest, and I'm excited to introduce you to him. I will let him introduce himself so I don't completely bungle that up. But before we do that, real quick, I just want to let everybody know, as promised, last week I told you I would have this year's training schedule up by today. We, luckily, thankful to Dan there, we made it just in the nick of time. But we got the entire training schedule up. There may be some minor changes, some courses that we add. But if you want to sign up, go sign up now. I can tell you courses are already filling up. We had just posted our long range courses a couple days ago. Those are already starting to fill up. So if you want to jump in while you can. Also, folks, tomorrow we're doing a special edition Dangerous Liberty on a Thursday, which we don't normally do. We're gonna have a self-defense lawyer on, and we're gonna talk about specifically the Houston diner shooting. Kind of let him analyze that from a much more learned legal analysis than what we can give, and what our thoughts or opinions on that. But more importantly, folks, that'll basically be like a free self-defense seminar, right? Not only is Bill going to talk about that incident, but he's going to cover several other case studies and just talk about self-defense in general. I was really shocked, folks, at some of the comments and perceptions when it comes to self-defense on that. So we're going to get him on there, and I think it'll be very educational for everybody. So, well, as said, I want to welcome Dale King. Many of you guys may know him from Shark Tank. You might know him from TED Talks. And I've been following him for a while. Talk a little bit about that. But Dale, if you will, just go ahead and introduce yourself and let everybody know who you are.
Thanks, Gary.
Yep.
My name's Dale King. Thank you again for having me on the show.
Yeah, man. Thanks for being here.
Oh, dude, my pleasure. So I'm a Army veteran. Was in from 03 to 07. Got out and worked for the Department of Energy for a while, and in parallel opened up a CrossFit gym. And then from there was kind of able to branch out in a few other business opportunities. So I co-founded Doc Spartan. And as you said, we were successful on Shark Tank in 2017. And then really from there, the gym partnered with the Counseling Center, which is a large nonprofit substance use disorder counseling center. And so we really started giving CrossFit classes to people in recovery. And then kind of finding from there that once folks get sober, the bigger issue is finding like long-term stable employment and kind of mentorship. So my business partner and I, after kind of learning that, decided that we would make it our mission to employ as many people in recovery as we can through Doc Spartan. And then a couple years ago, opened up another business called Spartan Solutions Group. And then we just we kind of do all the dirty jobs no one wants to do. And whether it's, large scale packaging of products or small parts grinding of cast iron castings, whatever. So we have anywhere from 2 to 3 guys in recovery as well, earn a paycheck and just kind of earn their way back into society.
Oh, that's pretty cool, man. So I'm curious. I definitely want to delve into how you got involved into the outreach that you're doing. But I'm curious to how did the Shark Tank opportunity come about?
Yeah, man. So we get an email one day and said, "Hey, my name's Max. I'm an executive producer on Shark Tank. We'd love for you guys to try out for the show." And so immediately my Renee, my business partner, and I were like, "This has to be like one of my buddies, being an asshole. And I Googled the guy's name, and sure as shit, like he was holding two Emmys on a Google image search, and so we kind of took it a little bit more serious. But what they were doing is they were just they were trying to find companies for like a veterans first responder episode. And so they found us on social media, which was funny because we'd only been in existence for like a year at that point. But found us there and thought we might be a good fit. So we like put together a little casting video on our phone, man, sent it in, and they said, "Hey, come on out to LA." That's how that thing got started.
So you originally didn't reach out to them at all?
No, not at all, man. It was funny. Somebody had mentioned it. It was like a joke in passing, and I was like, "Yeah, sure, we'll go ahead and get on Shark Tank, just along with everybody else." But no, man, they had reached out to us, and when that happens, I forget how many thousands of businesses apply each year, but what they'll do is they'll just put you to the front of the queue, and then if they kind of think you're a good fit for TV, they'll assign you a producing team and kind of walk you through the process.
Well, your American flag Ranger panties were definitely attention grabbing. There's no doubt about that.
It was so they said like, "Hey, do a casting video. Just make sure it's like entertaining." So I've got a 46 Willys Jeep. So like the opening shot is like us screaming in on the Willys, and I pop out and I've got American flag Ranger panties on, just like cutting a promo, almost like Ric Flair style. And so they're like, the producing team calls us, and they're like, "Hey, we love it. We want you to come out, but if you come out, you have to wear those Ranger panties." And I was like, "Okay, haha, sure, I'll wear the Ranger panties." And they're like, "No, don't come unless you're not going to wear this." So I was like, "All right, well, looks like we're wearing the Ranger panties."
Well, it all worked out for you.
Yeah, it all worked out, man.
Because that was really like kind of the early days of Shark Tank, right?
It was. I think it was like 7 or 8 seasons by then. Yeah, no, it had been around for a while. Yeah. I think they're season. I mean, they're like 14, maybe somewhere around there now. Yeah.
Well, it was new to me because for those of you that don't know, well, all of you don't know, but I don't know how it came about. I think it was just through, I think some mutual contacts or something on Facebook, but we were already following you on your personal page. And I honestly don't even remember how it came about, but then I was seeing the CrossFit thing, and the next thing you know, I saw that you'd been on Shark Tank, and then just continuing to follow you with watching you talk about and post things about what you guys are doing in Portsmouth. Again, you were definitely somebody that I wanted to talk to for sure, with everything that you're doing for the community. But not only that, too, one of the things that I am definitely wanting to get more involved with is definitely with veterans, PTSD, all of that. I've lost several friends to PTSD. And, I think more, there needs to be a bigger highlight done on successful veterans like yourself that have went to war, come back. We all have issues and we all deal with them in different ways. And, again, that's something that just needs to be highlighted more. And I think, you're definitely a success story, but not only just a success story, you're not a guy just lining your pockets. You're out there doing great things for the community. And if you will, talk a little bit about the challenges with Portsmouth, because I know, again, coming from Detroit, where I come from, and even here in West Virginia, I think there's a lot of similarities. So if you will, just kind of talk about some of the challenges you guys face there in Portsmouth.
Yeah. So, Portsmouth is kind of infamous for opioids and, being kind of almost a ground zero during from the opioid epidemic. And what had happened was as as pain pills were kind of like sweeping through the country, the doctor who created the pill mill slash pain clinic business model was actually, he did that in Portsmouth. So the very first scripts for cash business was done here in Portsmouth in the mid 90s.
Mm.
And as other doctors saw that model, it kind of proliferated along the Ohio River and then swept through all of Appalachia from there. And then as we get into like the history of the opioid epidemic, like I looked it up the other day, there from 2006 to 2012, there were 47 million pain pills prescribed in Scioto County. So Scioto County is in southern Ohio, and it's a population of 70,000 people. So in a 6-year time period, there were 47 million, and that's just from what the DEA was tracking.
Sure.
And so, and there were multiple, at this point, multiple pain clinics, multiple pill mills. And, West Virginia is one of the hardest hit states. And so we have a very long history of dealing with people in addiction and dealing with people in recovery. And then once the DEA cracked down on pain pills and overprescribing and shutting down those pain clinics, rightfully so, at this point you already had an addiction, or you already had a population who was addicted to opioids. And you don't just kick that. You don't just get off that. And so what they ended up doing was, we're talking the second wave now. And so now you're talking about bringing illicit heroin in. So heroin's getting, brought in from the cartels in Mexico, and we already have a population that's addicted to opioids. And so now they're on heroin, and now it's basically fentanyl now, which is 100 times more potent and like 10 times cheaper than heroin. So we got 20 plus years of dealing with that, and it was gone from war in Iraq to coming home to war in my backyard, pretty much. Sure.
No. And then so at what point did you decide to get involved? I know you're providing, but how did that come about?
Well, I opened up the gym in 2010, and honestly, that was a really good therapeutic way for me to deal with, reentering civilian life. It enabled me to find a new purpose in life, a new mission in life, and a new unit, which is what I was, missing, sorely from not being in the service anymore.
Sure.
And, early on, like our tagline is a quote from Henry Rollins. It's like, pain is not my enemy, is my call to greatness. So we wanted to use the gym as a way to teach people it's okay to be uncomfortable. It's okay to be in pain, and give them physical challenges to overcome through the daily workout.
Sure.
And then a couple years later, I'm not proud of this, but I would always kind of look at addicts as just like shitbags in my town. Never having met or talked to anybody dealing with that, it was just like I looked at them as like the mascot for the devastation that was happening in our town. But then I was provided an opportunity to give CrossFit classes to people in recovery. And that's when I really learned, how the true side of what somebody's going through when they're fighting addiction. And it's really not, everybody makes a bad decision, obviously, to use drugs, but the way these drugs were designed in labs. I mean, they're created to be one of the most addictive substances known to man.
Sure.
And once you're hooked, dude, like you need professional help to get off of it. And then that's how we got to know, work, and understand people that are going through recovery.
No, that makes sense. And you touched on something that I think is not. I don't think there's enough attention brought to it, but veterans when it comes to reintegration. We can talk about PTSD all day long, and obviously there's real PTSD. But I even know just from my personal experience, I think that has as big or a greater effect on veterans than even any sort of traumas that they experienced overseas is
Yeah.
that reintegration. You talk about feeling lost, feeling without a purpose. And, I think that contributes as much to suicide and depression and all the other things that we normally associate just with PTSD. I think that's at least as much, if not more, than PTSD itself.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%, man. I looked when I came back. I was just a lot of it was just angry in the fact that, a lot of folks died over there.
Mhm.
A lot of friends, a lot of people, and I came home to my hometown, which I grew up in, had nothing but good memories from my hometown when I grew up.
Sure.
And it was just like I didn't understand what had happened to my hometown while I was gone for like that 10 years almost. And I couldn't, it was just like, what was the point in all the sacrifice overseas to come home to what, no one appeared to be like they gave a shit what was going on.
Sure.
And so you just, and it's hard because no one else, I forget the stat, but like half of 1% of the active population is actually served in the global military. And so it's like, who do you have to talk to about it? Who can share those experiences? Was the sacrifice worth everything? And now it's like, on paper, I had a great job. I had a good paying, government job, was going to retirement and benefits and the whole thing. And just like hated my professional life. I was like, just looking at myself in the mirror, like, is this my destiny here? Like, this is what I'm going to be doing the next 30 years of my life. And what am I going to have to say for it? So yeah, man, it's without a sense of unit, without a sense of purpose, guys start to feel isolated. And when you start feeling isolated, that's when bad things happen.
Yeah, and I don't think just isolated too. I think it's almost you feel ostracized at some extent because you just you can't relate to the most of the people around you. You don't know how to talk to and integrate and just socialize with most people. And it gets to the point to where you can tell people are almost like a little put off or even uneasy around you. That's something that, I personally experienced where it's like, I just, and you're absolutely right. It's very challenging to a person's psyche and they're again, a person's sense of purpose. And, I definitely can relate to what you're talking about, having a government job that pays the bills, that does those things, but it's sucking your soul away at the same time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, dude.
So 100%. And I think that, and I think as veterans, there's something, and I don't know the answer to it because again, with what little outreach that we have, I try to make myself available and let people know, and probably not enough. Hey, if you're a veteran, you need a place, you need something to do, come talk to us. So, and I'm sure as you're talking about, these addicts, I guarantee you they feel that, and then probably so much more.
Yep.
Because now they are essentially seen as a pariah to society. So not only do they have not a place to go, anywhere they do go, they're basically ran off. So, that's an interesting aspect that I don't think many of us think about very often.
No, man. I was fortunate in the aspect that, obviously I was a veteran myself. All my buddies were veterans. Um, and, by being in the CrossFit community, I had that as like my therapeutic outlet. That was my new community. And, that was a physical outlet as well, obviously. Um, but when I really started like talking to and coaching people in recovery, it was like, oh, this is the same thing. Like
Mm-hmm.
they're no one signs up to be a heroin addict because everything's going right in their life.
Yeah.
Um, they're all trying to find a way to deal with trauma. In our case, the trauma was overseas. In their case, it was probably some sort of generational family trauma, whether, abuse, sexual abuse, whatever, some
Sure.
sort of trauma more than likely generated their substance use disorder. And it's just like getting people to be around other good people, getting people to create little micro communities, and then going through a hard effort together. That's a big key, which I think a lot of our society in general is missing, is just like, hey, it's okay to suck for a while. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like to really dig deep and to overcome hard physical things, not just by yourself, but in a group environment. There's a lot of very magical things that can happen in that scenario.
No, 100%. I definitely think that is part of the challenges we face in society today. Is number one, people aren't used to physical challenges, and that plays right into the emotional challenges and why we have people that are so easily offended. I think there's a very real tie between emotion and physical, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
the pain is essentially the same. The that discomfort is the same. If you are not used, I'll put it this way, if you are used to physical discomfort, you can easily handle emotional or societal discomfort, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
Being in places where people aren't like you, that don't think like you, that don't do those things. Um, and you're right. I think we've gotten to a point where we spend like zero time outdoors. We spend zero time doing any hard physical labor, and then we have a society that doesn't work out. Eats whatever they just want to eat. We just have no self-discipline anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm speaking to myself as much as anybody. My wife and I, we try to work out regularly, try to stay in shape, try to eat right, but we all get lazy sometimes. And the problem is that some of us get in that funk and we just stay there. And then that leads to a whole lot of other issues. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I agree 100%. And, people just need to understand, like, the only thing that we really are guaranteed is discomfort.
Yeah.
Um, we can't, it's like the book says, the obstacle is the way. And the sooner, it's like we tell our guys, hey, when we're coaching people in recovery, it's like we get an hour class with them, and we tell them, hey, this is 1 hour of your day that we're trying to do here is train you to not quit. We don't care how fast you do it. We don't care the amount of weight that you're lifting. We don't care whatever. We don't care what the score of the workout is. We just care that you complete the work. Because the more that you train to not quit here, the more that's going to transition and carry over into the other 23 hours of the day.
100%. 100%. On a lighter note, we got some folks with some comments and some questions. Folks, if you have a comment or a question, especially a question, throw up, just add a Q and a semicolon before that, so I'll make sure that I see that. But this is actually Dan, our web guy. He says, love your product. My son gets motion sickness. I keep one in the truck, a sniff, a settled nausea, another use case on top of first aid ointment.
That's awesome. That's the first that I've heard for it, but I'll take it, man. That's great.
Yeah, that's it. If you haven't yet, folks, and I'll make sure I'll put it down in the comments somewhere. I'll put down his website. Dale, what's your website? Dale, DocSpartan.com.
Yeah, DocSpartan.com.
All right,
Yep.
and we'll make sure we throw that up as well. Throw up a link.
Yes, it's probably the tea tree oil that's in it that's settling that nausea is what I would guess.
Awesome, awesome. Donnie Dark says, I think a lot of PTSD is from what the person did, not what they saw. Mortality does not go away with a badge or a patch. I'm not 100% sure what you mean by that, Donnie. Exactly, but no, I don't think it's necessarily what you saw or what you did. I think, th- to me, there's basically two categories, and Dale, you feel free to chime in anytime, of PTSD in my mind, right? So there's those that had a major traumatic event, maybe an IED, maybe saw or were with a friend that was killed, uh, some sort of major experience that has this lasting effect, right? And then I also think that there is more like the cumulative um, effects of just being in an environment where bad things happen on a pretty consistent basis, right? So I'll just share it with you guys. I've seen a lot of crazy stuff. And the thing that sticks with me the most, um, it's probably one of the least traumatic incidences, I guess you would say, or would think from to begin with. In 2003, we were in Talafar, Iraq. And at this point, I was with 1187, Rocket Sounds at 101st, 1st Battalion 187. And at that point, we had been lucky enough. We went from Kuwait, we traveled up through the southern portion of Iraq. We hit Baghdad. Um, we got in a bunch of firefights in between there. We had people injured. Later on, we went up to Talafar and Mosul, and there was a couple of bombings. Lots of guys were injured, but at that point, nobody had been killed. I was with the scout platoon, and that was HHC. So within our company was also the mortars. So we were pretty close to the mortars, the mortar platoon. And basically one night, our mortar platoon was doing a vehicle patrol, and they got hit by an RPG, and two of the mortars, our mortarmen were killed. Garvey, and I'll think of the other guy's name here in a second. But anyways, so we went and secured that site right after they were killed, and we ended up having to put them in body bags, and even that wasn't that bad. But for whatever reason, I remember picking up the body bag after it had been sitting there for a while, and of course, it's this vinyl bag, and just the whole thing sloshing around. There's all this liquid, and man, for whatever reason, that hit me, and I still think about that to this day. And I'll say, out of all, there's incidents that happen much more severe than that throughout my military career, but for whatever reason, that was probably the thing that hit me the hardest. And and so I think it's different for everybody. But then, of course, there's other parts of that too, where I know, people have insomnia because you are just constantly fighting sleeping. And you train your brain. And I know, like, when I'm laying down, I can be dead tired, ready to go to sleep, can't wait to hit. As soon as I hit the bed, start trying to close my eyes, you get an adrenaline dump. So I think, and then you're up all night long. So I think it's different for everybody. And everything affects people in different ways. There's no doubt about it. Dale, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, everybody is going to navigate that differently, man, based upon experiences, based upon individual psychological makeup. But everybody's going to have to deal with it individually, and it's just understanding that. And another thing that I heard that really made a lot of sense to me is, you're in your early to mid to early to late 20s, and you're still, I mean, those are some pretty formative years of your life.
Sure.
While you're experiencing everything overseas. And then you come home, and it's just like you're supposed to be able to flip that switch and be Joe Schmo. And I heard a guy talking, he said his PTSD wasn't so much a matter of the disorder. It was when he came home, he had a lack of stress. He had
Yeah,
a lack of adrenaline.
100%.
You know what I mean? So it's just like you go from life or death scenarios and situations and millions of dollars worth of equipment that you're in charge of, and
Yeah.
you're you're literally standing up a country
Yeah.
at age 24 or
Yeah.
whatever it is, and then you come home and you're just like, what do I do with my life now? You have that lack of severe importance and stress and trying to do things that are impactful and meaningful. So
And having daily, like literally what you're doing is life or death almost constantly. And if you're doing something good, you're saving lives. If you're just screwing off or you're a shitbag, you could be costing people's lives.
yeah,
So I think between that and then just the constant excitement. Look, I'll tell you, I love going on hits. Like, when we're going out and we're going to hit a target, man, I miss those days. And you're absolutely right. So, you take all of that and then now you're out of the military and you're in this civilian life and, you don't fit in. You're completely missing all that adrenaline, the good, the bad, all of it.
mm-hmm.
And now you're just in one spot and you're having to sit on all of it, right? And I think all of that has such a cumulative effect. What I used to always, walking around the training center when I first got out of the military, took a job as an instructor, people would get all worked up about stuff, and I'm just like, dude,
Yeah, yeah.
this isn't even real, bro. Like it
Right.
doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
And it's true, but at the same time, apparently there was a lot of people that cared about it. It was a big deal to people that outranked me.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that's the other thing. Is, that is that's a positive aspect. It's just like, this really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, in the grand scheme of things, like, this is not that big of a deal.
Yeah. Tomorrow's coming, and we're gonna figure
Right.
about this. Then it's not even a big deal. John Hopin, number one, for those of you that I forgot to say hello to, hello and welcome. John, good to see you, buddy. John says, I'm with the Canine Companions. My pet project has been getting service dogs to service men and women. We work with the VA doing studies, etc. I think the service dog program is a great program, and it goes back to what we're talking about a little bit, where you have these veterans that have a lot of essentially have a complete lack of purpose, and I think if nothing else, having that responsibility of taking care of that animal, I think is probably a bigger impact in a positive way than necessarily have something to hug on and pat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man.
John Walsh, PTSD is triggering people differently, whereas veterans deal with it is what matters. I found being around other vets, 100%. And kind of like what you were talking about too, being a Portsmouth, not necessarily like a military town. There's lots of folks that get out of the military and they go back to their hometowns where they don't have anybody, man.
Mm-hmm.
Their relationships with other veterans and people they can relate to are reduced to social media, and I think we can all agree that's a really poor analog for real social interaction.
Yeah, man. I think here's the bad news. Like, we as a society in America have never been more sick, more obese, more depressed, more anxious. The good news is that is an incredible opportunity for guys that come back home to make a dent in that somehow, somewhere. No matter where your neighborhood or community or town is, there's a need there somewhere.
100%.
You just got to do a little digging, and you have there's no better person that's suited to get in the fight than somebody who's been overseas.
Absolutely.
You know, leadership, organizational management, the most important lesson that, hey, we have to be successful. We don't get to say, no, we're not doing this. It's too hard.
Yeah.
You have that skill set. And if you're, don't, don't let the fight come to you. You know what I mean? Like, find the need, find the fight in your backyard, and then use your skills to help it. And I tell people all the time, like, as far as the gym is concerned, like, people will thank me. Hey, I lost 50 pounds. Hey, it helped my relationship at home. Hey, it did this, did that. It does all that to me by seeing people do good. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So selfishly, it's very, very fulfilling. And I just don't know where I'd be without it.
Yeah, no, and I feel the same way as far as firearms instruction. That's the gratification that I get from seeing people progress and seeing people um, have a good time out of the range. And that's what I love to do. And it's probably one of those selfish things where it's what I love to do, so I like to see other people do what I love to do, right?
Well, yeah, man, especially with firearms, you take something that's very scary and a very psychologically dangerous thing to somebody. And if you can, in a day, teach them how to use that tool and turn it into something positive and enjoyable, man, like, you've changed somebody's life.
No, absolutely. There's no doubt about it. And then, of course, I get to hire other veterans to come and be instructors. And, that's what's nice. It's usually a weekend is like a couple of days of being back in the military.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I guess you hit on a lot of things, but I think the key takeaway for any veterans out there that are listening that they're struggling is, just like you said, whether it's finding something that you love to do and making sure that you're doing that, finding those challenging things, don't settle, and then make sure that you're reaching out to people. I think those three things will go a long way.
Yeah, you just need to find a community, and that community has to be in real life. And depending on where you live, it's you may not be able to be around as many veterans as you'd like, but you can't. You got to get out of the house. You got to find your little community, whether obviously selfishly, like a CrossFit gym's a great way to do that, or whatever it is. Just find a handful of people that you can be, that could be at your church, that could be wherever, that care for you, and then the group of you are aligned in some sort of mission to service related.
Yeah. Like we were talking about, it's easy to get out of the military and, like you said, just sit on all of your garbage. But the moment that you start pointing and caring about somebody else, or redirecting that energy to where you're looking out for somebody else, might be other veterans, might be whatever else, might be a service dog, right?
Yeah.
All those things, whatever it is, you got to get out from under yourself, and start looking for work. What we do in the military, right? You're always looking for something else to do. And there's also Brooke, one of our instructors, former Ranger. It's one of his. He actually has stickers that say "Looking for work." Do it. Always be looking for work, looking for ways to help those around you, and looking for way to further yourself too.
Yeah, man.
And just do some self-development. So let's talk about a little bit, if nobody else has any other big questions or anything like that, or comments that I'm seeing. How did you, and I know we talked a little bit before the show, but tell everybody how you got into Doc Spartan specifically, because I think that's a pretty interesting story.
So I don't know shit about making all natural skincare products. I mean, that's pretty obvious. But this goes back to the power of community. So there was a girl in my gym at the time, and her name's Renee. She was actually married to a Kiowa pilot at the time. So on the side, she was just like making all natural creams and lotions, and then would just like go to like farmers markets and sell them there. And from being in the gym and being in the military, I said, "Hey, do you think you could like come up with an all natural first aid ointment?" And she said, "Yeah, that shouldn't be too bad." So went to her kitchen, spent like $200 at the grocery store and started mixing stuff up. And the cool thing about the gym is once we found the one that we liked the best, we just handed them out to everybody at the gym and said, "Hey, if you any kind of nicks, cuts, scrapes, wounds, put this stuff on it and then give us your feedback." And within like days, we were getting like unbelievable feedback from, "Hey, I used this on, I just had surgery. I used it so I wouldn't get a big scar," to use it on my kids for diaper rash, to, "Hey, I used it to help heal my tattoo." And we were getting like crazy before and afters. And so we knew we had a pretty good product. And by that point, I'd owned the gym for 5 years. Was learning the ropes of business, which is a whole other thing. And so I was like, "Okay, cool. Like we'll sell this in the gym to the members that come here." And the same thing as like selling drinks or anything else, and put it on social media a couple times. And then my buddies that owned other gyms were like, "Well, how do I get this?" And I was like, "Shit, I don't know. How do you get it?" And so then started looking up how to run an e-commerce store and talked to other veterans who were, very successful in the e-commerce space. And they took their time to show me stuff. And before I know it, I had a website up, and our goal was to have one sale a day. That was what we were cool with. And before we knew it, man, we were on Shark Tank. But yeah, so it went from we call it Combat Ready Ointment. That was our flagship product. And now we have like a full line of skincare and grooming products the cool thing is like we all make it ourselves.
Yeah.
So we do all in-house manufacturing, and we do all in-house fulfillment, because that gives us the opportunities to create more job opportunities.
Yeah, folks, and again, they constantly post those pictures, which I enjoy seeing on their Instagram, especially. I'm sure you do it on Facebook too. I just not on Facebook very often, but
yeah, me neither, man.
So yeah, if you guys aren't following, is your Instagram? What's your Instagram handle?
It's just at Doc Spartan Products.
That's the working products.
Yep.
So again, go check that out, folks. Definitely give them some support. But again, you'll see they're in there making it one batch at a time by hand.
Yeah.
It's no joke. Pouring the concoctions into molds, and it's pretty cool, man. Nice. I think it's really cool. And I hope you guys never go to some big production. Maybe you will one day. But to some automated production. I want to see you guys pouring hot liquid. We'll get
machinery for sure.
That's right. Yeah. So I want to see you guys pouring hot liquid into molds till the end of time. Yeah. So there we go. Let's see what other questions we got here. Ritesh, you're gonna have to check. He talked a little bit about that before you jumped on here. So when this posts, you can go check out that and get the rerun version of that. Yeah. So what are you guys doing right now, and what's kind of the big push right in Ohio right now?
Yeah, man. So we're just we're able to kind of calm down a little bit after the holiday season. I'm sure you know how that goes. But so like right now we're gearing up for Valentine's Day. That's a pretty big holiday for us. So we'll have some specialty projects out there. And then, right now for the gym, it's obviously January. So that's a big season for folks wanting to get back in shape. So we're really kind of highlighting and pushing the effort that's going on in the gym. And it's just like chaos, man. Like everybody, some people that work for Doc Spartan are also CrossFit coaches. And then we have, we do like 22 classes a week at the gym. We do 25 classes a week for the counseling center. We have 2.5 full-time employees for Doc Spartan. I have another 2 to 3 folks for Spartan Solutions Group. So it's just everybody's running and gunning all times and putting out fires, man. But it's just trying to keep the pushing the rock up the hill.
Yeah, and I always jokingly and jokingly talk a lot of smack about CrossFit, and my wife and I do CrossFit and things like that. But we joke about it being a cult. But what is absolutely true about that makes CrossFit unique compared to like just going to a gym is, like you said, the community. People, once they get inculcated in it, they're a genuine community where I think that is one of the greatest benefits of it. And the same thing if you're into like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or
Right.
any other
Yes.
side of martial art or
Yep.
anything like that. So as well as if you come shoot with us, and you guys know, for those of you that are on this that are clients of ours, you guys are family, and that's what it's about is building these communities. I think we need to do a better job of doing that. And yeah, so I think CrossFit is an excellent medium for that, without a doubt.
Yeah, it's a great no outlet's better than the other. It's just a fantastic outlet for a lot of folks.
Again, this is Dan, our web guy. It's not boring. Weight training is boring. Lift lower. CrossFit is fun.
Excellent, Dan. One thing I did forget to mention, man, is
Mhm.
we filmed a documentary in the summer last year. So the documentary is called Small Town Strong, and it's basically kind of chronicling everything that we've been talking about. And speaking to the power of community, my brother, he's a former team leader actually for 19th Group, and we became really good friends. And he's the director of the project.
Oh wow!
So yeah, so he actually moved to Portsmouth with his wife to film and produce this project. And almost the final cut came in today. So we're submitting that to Tribeca Film Festival in New York, and hopefully we get picked up, and hopefully everyone sometime this year can see it on some sort of major streaming service.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So, but it won't be released for public viewing until after the film festival.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So hopefully it makes a splash. The strategy is hopefully it makes a splash at the film festival, and that gets the right people interested, and then we go from there.
That's where it kind of gets moved to distribution.
Yep. So you figure out like if a studio, best case scenario is like a studio wants to buy it, or Netflix, HBO, Amazon, a streaming service wants to buy it. If not, then we'll figure out plan C from there. But
that's awesome. So how deeply involved were you personally with that?
So it's such a wild story, dude, but forever it was kind of like this thing was in development, and we'd have meetings with, I don't want to mention their names, but we'd have meetings with bigger entertainment companies, and they kind of kicked the can down the road about it. Because at that time we had a development idea, and then the whole purpose of that is pitching it to a studio to get the studio to buy it, which means they fund it. So basically, I'm sure you can appreciate this. We just said we're tired of waiting. We'll just do it ourselves. Yeah. So we funded the whole thing ourselves, and like DIY'd it, punk rocked it. Like it was almost like being like on a deployment, man. You're just a ragtag bunch of guys with cameras and crews and drones going and downloading footage, uploading footage, and now you got to find an editing team and all this stuff. So it's been quite the journey.
That's awesome, man. So you guys filmed that this past summer?
A good part of the filming was done this summer, but we've had footage for 4 years.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah. So it from what I've seen, man, it's, of course I'm biased, but it's a very, very powerful story.
Well, that's awesome. Well, I look forward to checking that out. Small town strong.
Yep.
Definitely. As soon as it's available, make sure you shoot
Yeah,
it over
dude,
to
I'll
me, and
reach back out for sure.
we'll push it out for sure. So when you got picked up at Shark Tank, which shark ended up investing in you guys?
Robert Hershevek.
Okay, Robert. Okay,
Yeah.
and I don't know how much you can talk about that. So what was that experience like working with him? And
Oh, dude, it was phenomenal. Like he's still an active investor in the company today.
mhm.
So it was wild, man. Like, besides all the positive benefits that Robert has given us, as far as, mainly a mentorship.
Sure.
But what it did is by us going on the show, getting a deal, it was like, oh, holy shit, we better be serious about this business now. Like,
Right.
we've got somebody on board now, and he knows what the hell he's doing. So we better figure out what the hell we're doing. And that was kind of the biggest benefit it gave to us, is like get real serious about our numbers, how we're going to do this. And, dude, like you can, like we were talking earlier, like you can go down, you could spend weeks figuring out the best cameras, the best streaming services, the audio, the ring light, how the studio looks. Then you got to factor in like, okay, my website, how I want my website to look, how I want to capture email addresses, how I want to do my email marketing, how that flows to my social media campaign, to my YouTube channel, it is truly, you better love what you're doing. Because if you don't, man, you'll get burnt pretty quick. But I don't even know where the hell I was going with that. But Robert's been a huge help. Just like he knows the right people, and just like, hey, ask him for his advice, point you in the right direction. And then if we need to pull the trigger on, if we want to get bigger like retail deals or wholesale deals, it's always nice to have him in the back pocket to help open those doors.
Well, I'm sure. I always, of course, I'm a cynic, I guess, to begin with, and Summer's here, everybody. She made it. She just got back from wrestling with Noah. She took him to wrestling. She wasn't wrestling with Noah. That's her Wednesday workout. She wrestles with him. I forgot what I was saying. What was I saying?
You were a cynic.
Oh yeah. So I'm very cynical to begin with. So I always watch Shark Tank, and I'm like, I know those guys, they end up investing and they just take those people for a ride. But that doesn't sound like, at least that was not your experience at all, huh?
No, not at all. Actually, from what I've personally witnessed, it's some of the companies try to take the sharks on a ride.
Really?
Sure.
I've seen that happen a few times. But what happens is, what people don't understand about the show is, so we were actually in the Shark Tank for probably 50 minutes. And that entire 50 minutes, 5, 6 of that gets edited down to an episode.
Wow.
But the shark has no idea who you are. And we could have been lying. We could have just been out there lying about our numbers, lying about the whole thing. But what happens is, if you shake for a deal on the show, in our case, like we went in June of summer of 16, and we didn't air until February 2017.
Oh, wow. So
the whole time they're doing due diligence just to make sure that what you were saying was true. Because if they find anything in due diligence that you're lying about, they'll cancel it and they won't air you.
Yeah, I definitely didn't realize there was that big of a gap. And so I'm sure there's probably lots and lots of deals made that never get aired, huh?
Oh, no. So, I wish I could spout this stat right off the top of my head, but, however many 70,000, whatever it is, people apply to get on the show, of that 130 total companies, I think, make it on the show in a season.
First season?
Yeah, per season. If you look at whatever 4 or 5 companies per episode, and of the 130, I think less than half actually get a deal. And of that half, actually 10%, the deal actually goes through.
Oh, wow.
Through. You know what I mean? So we're proud to be one of that 10%.
That's a big accomplishment.
Yeah. And we were fortunate in the fact that we started the company with $200 in ingredients. Like, I mean, it's not like we took out a $100,000 loan to startup loan or anything like that. So all the money that we were making was just going right back into the company, and we didn't need any money, right? So it's a big difference in your attitude when you go into something. We just obviously wanted the recognition and publicity from the show.
Sure.
That made a huge difference.
So you definitely didn't need the money to necessarily sustain where you were at, but probably at least if you were really going to grow as far as the just marketing side of it.
Yeah. And then and the cool thing is, so to give you a frame of reference, the 12 months before going on the show, we did annually, we did like 2,000 orders annually. 5 days after airing, we did a total of 4,000 orders.
Oh, wow.
So we did twice our annual amount of orders in 5 days, which brings a whole host of its troubles, right?
Yeah. I mean, I was listening on the way here, and you said you do all in-house fulfillment, as do we, and like just getting that flood of amount of orders, I can't even imagine being able to fulfill those in a timely manner.
Yep.
Because people are so spoiled by Amazon shipping that they call me like the next day after they order and want their item then.
Yeah, they'll order that thing at 11 o'clock at night, and it'll be, not
on
even noon. Yeah. It'll not even be noon the next day, and be like, hey, I don't see my tracking number.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, hey, man, it's in God's hands if it goes.
I'm going to start saying that.
Yeah. It's in God's hands now. Yeah, you're right. Like it's great and it was awesome. But you better had your shit together. And but the other thing is, like, you don't have anything. Well, how much do we need to make for the show? I don't know. Hopefully enough, whatever. Whatever enough is.
Just keep pouring.
Yeah. Yep. And then if you don't have it, you have literally a once in a lifetime opportunity that you can screw up on.
Yeah.
But luckily, like we hired somebody full time on just like a risk, and we just said, hey, you're just going to keep making stuff to the show airs, and we could have aired as early as September. But we were just lucky in the fact that it didn't air until February, so it gave us more time to build up.
So it sounds like you were able to move all that product very quickly after the
so
the
I would say we had 80% of stuff in stock already, so it was just a fulfillment game.
Yeah.
And
so
now,
go ahead.
And now, like, because we got a deal, and because the deal actually went through, and because Robert is still a partner today, we now average like every 6 or 7 weeks a rerun on CNBC.
Oh, wow.
So it's just a gift that keeps on giving.
That's cool.
What did you guys do to, once you hit that point it aired, and then you basically smoked through all your stock? What did you guys do to adjust to scale up that fast?
After that initial 5 days, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah,
man. So it's it's not, unfortunately it never like went up and stayed there. I mean, I would love to do 4,000 orders every 5 days.
Sure.
But that wave eventually comes down. And then it's just a matter of, capitalizing on that, getting the email addresses, trying to get return customers, having all your back end email marketing dialed in. And then just the good thing about us is because we don't rely on a co-packer, it's a labor thing. So we just hire more folks or unfortunately sometimes lay folks off. Like, we're very seasonal. So we'll have to hire additional help for Q4 for holiday season. But as that kind of goes down, then we're able to help those folks find other jobs somewhere. So it's just a labor thing.
Yeah.
Sure. Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, I don't think most people have no clue what it takes to end up running a business. I had no clue what it took.
I still have no clue.
Yeah. I have a clue. Summer still doesn't have a clue, but
I think Summer's the one that fixed the audio in the beginning.
Let me tell you something.
Right.
She fixes everything around here. All I do, I'm like, I'm making a video, I'm doing this, I'm running the course. You take care of this.
Everything else.
She.
I'll hear, "Hey, babe," and I'm like, "Oh no."
She does it all. There's no doubt about it. Doesn't get nearly enough credit. One of these days, I'll be able to afford to pay her. But
at least I can eat.
There you go. Shoot and eat. What else do you need to do?
Yep.
Right now, all she gets is a bunch of this.
Oh God.
Lucky. So
that's truly the gift that keeps on giving.
That's right.
Yeah.
I spoil it. I do. Yeah. Well, folks, if you guys got some questions or anything like that, make sure you guys throw it on there. That's right. All I do is search my $400 cameras.
That's a
little inside
joke.
My camera that didn't cost $400, I posted that it costed $400. Not even close.
Don't tell Summer it didn't cost $400.
That's right.
Now, how long have you had this channel going, Gary?
So we didn't. I think I threw up a video in
at least like 2019, 2018,
2017 or 18. I threw up a video and whatever, and come to find out that video was actually doing some pretty good things. And I threw up a couple little things here and there, but again, it wasn't until COVID I was like, you know what? We had clients were actually reaching out and talking about, hey, it'd be cool if you put on some online content on YouTube or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
During the initial throes of COVID, where we were all locked down and all that stuff, and I also didn't want to lose the momentum that we've been building just organically, right, through running courses and things like that. So yeah, we basically, like, early on, was it early 2020, I bought first cheap little camera and started getting into the AV side of it. What's that?
It wasn't cheap.
It was like $700.
Go ahead.
It was a big deal at the time. Real big deal.
I know how it goes, man.
It was a big deal. And you know what? I started shooting some basic just training videos. And I found out real quick what people want is products, right? They want to see product reviews. That's what they want. So we started doing more of those to grow the channel. And then I'm always trying to indoctrinate people. Hey, look, our tagline is, hey, Guns and Gear is great, but we're really about training. So make sure you go to ParamountTactical.com, go check out our training schedule, come train with us. And I'm always trying to hit that throughout the videos. But, ultimately, once I started doing product reviews and how-tos when it comes to gunsmithing, I'm an 18 Bravo.
Yeah.
And, I've been a gun nerd my whole life. So that's where it started to grow, and that's where it started to take off. And then, we've been kind of hard at it since, so.
That's great, man.
Yeah.
So basically, you look at the channel as like the top of your funnel to get brand recognition, and then from that you're able to 100 people enter the funnel that want to come to training or whatever it is. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Great, man.
It's definitely our biggest. I'm sure. Well, I'm not sure, but I don't know what you did. We've tried to do other things as far as marketing and things like that. Spend a lot of money on like radio.
Paid ads.
Yeah. And the other thing that doesn't help us is that social media, even from the beginning on like Facebook especially, we've always been shadow banned.
Yeah. We're actually it's surprising. We're pretty much shadow banned too. I mean, not but compared to like the reach and stuff compared to what we used to be doing. Just because our audience obviously is very veteran friendly, and compared to the old like
Independent
4
thinking.
years ago, what we used to do, it's like
Yeah, there was we were always getting, I knew we were putting more and more effort into content on Facebook and courses and things like that. And like you said, at the beginning, we were growing at a certain rate that's very easy to kind of see that trajectory. And then we started at Facebook and shut us down 2000. So first was any gun courses, we could do that. And then we were still able to run med course ads. At one point, they just shut them. They wouldn't even let us do med courses for whatever reason. Hey, make sure the boys are not on our internet. We're in West Virginia, so it's a little bit of bandwidth. So at some point, they wouldn't even let us run medical courses, and I don't understand the logic behind that. But I'll remember. But even at that point, like every post we had was still reaching like 30 or 40,000 people. I won't say every post, but we were reaching a lot, and we only had probably 5,000 or 6,000 people following us on Facebook at the time. But our posts were good, and we were putting a lot of time and effort in that content, and we were reaching. I'd say it was pretty regular to see something hit 30 or 40,000 people. We had several posts that hit 100,000. But I remember, I think it was around 2018 or 19. They sent out a thing saying, "Hey, we're changing the way they do something." I don't remember what it was, but it went from that to like 8 people. Yep. I mean, it was just we saw no growth for many years, and so I was like, I'm done with social media. We're still doing some things through Instagram, but I think we were running into the same wall. And then we started, and we were still growing organically just through word of mouth, just not nearly as fast as I would like. And then we tried some other avenues as far as advertising, didn't pay off. And then, like I said, I hated the idea. I knew that if we went to YouTube, I knew we would do good, but I just hated every time I watched anything gun related. It just, you got some airsofter on there talking about something he doesn't know about. I just didn't want to be associated with a YouTube gun bunny, right?
Yeah.
And then, like I said, COVID came, and I was like, all right, let's do this. And if we're going to do it, let's do it the best we can. And Summer will tell you, I was, just up all night after night after night, learning how to do audio, learning how to do video, learning how to do editing.
He did it all himself.
Man.
Self-taught everything, researched everything.
And one of the things that I think a little bit we touched on earlier, and one thing that I've tried to tell friends that are getting into business, all along that way, I was looking for that one partner, or I was looking for someone to bail me out, right? Like, I need someone that knows how to do audio video. I need somebody to do this. I need somebody that can contribute and do something that I'm not good at. And you know what? There's nobody coming, guys. There's no one coming. No one's going to do it like you.
No.
Sometimes you just got to freaking bite the bullet and get after it. And, that's what we did, man.
Well, and the good thing is, you're now dangerous enough to know when you're at the point to where you do want to hire somebody, an editor or whatever, like, enough to not be bullshitted about it. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's knowledge that will always pay off for you in the long run.
Yeah. No, and it's definitely been a huge growing experience as far as, learning that software. I know everything that I need to know, not nearly all of it, but everything from Photoshop to Lightroom to editing pictures, videos, all of those things. Mm-hmm. Things that I was talking to Summer. As a matter of fact, I literally had just got through making the thumbnail for this, and I was talking to our lawyer friend about coming on tomorrow in response to the shooting thing, and I was able to throw that up, and what used to take me literally 5-6 hours.
Yeah,
literally 5 or 6 hours. One little thumbnail that looked decent, and I was able to do it in like 10 minutes. I was like, you know what? A lot of the stuff is paid off big time.
Are you ever coming to bed? Can you come spend some time with us?
I know. I wish I could I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I'm the same way. It's just like I have to like put my phone in another room.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Well, once the switch gets flipped on, it ain't going off till we're done. You know,
yeah,
a good example of that, the other night, um, I saw that. I'm sure you saw that video about the Houston shooting.
yeah. Is that where the guy like he was leaving and shot him in the back or whatever?
Yeah. Yeah. So I saw that video and I posted it, and I just wanted to kind of create a point of discussion, right? Like let's talk about self-defense. Let's talk about the moral and ethical portion of it as well as the legal portion of it. And that turned into a dumpster fire so fast on social media. And I was shocked at people's knowledge of the law or the lack of the knowledge of the law. And then I was a little shocked at almost people's, like, I get it. Like, I'll tell you, I'll be the first person to say, if somebody threatens me or my family, man, let me tell you something. It's going to take an act of God to stop me from whatever.
Right.
But at least from the outside looking in, I can say, that's probably not morally or ethically correct. And I was a little shocked at people's response to this. So at that point, I was like, all right, I need to make a reaction type video, which I'd never done before. And so, this is like 7 o'clock at night. I was like, all right, we got to break this down and we got to talk about this. And it's our job to educate people on these types of things. So let's just give what I know about it. And so, about 7 a.m. the next day, I was ready to post that thing. And that's how it goes.
Man.
That's how it goes.
Oh, dude. Even like, so I started, I'm not getting good, but like screwing around with Instagram Reels. That's where all the, algorithm attention is going to.
Yeah.
And even with that, man, like it's a bear.
Yeah.
It is a bear just to, get the right time hacks to match the beat to da 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 da. You know what I mean? Like, but if there's something to be said for the exercise of always learning.
Yeah. No, there is.
And hopefully it turns into money.
Not just a complete waste of time. Yeah. No, it's this business, and I'm sure you can relate. It's been the hardest thing that we've ever done. But definitely, I always tell her, I was like, you know what, we bitch about all this stuff going on and everything that we got to do, but I have no doubt that 10, 15 years from now, it really doesn't matter, whatever happens, but we're gonna look back and be like, man, those were the days. Me and you freaking doing it all.
Yeah.
And Summer doesn't seem to think so.
It goes fast.
So many roles, I'm doing the work of like 5 or 6 people, but it's okay because I just like Gary, I'm learning so many different things, different aspects of the business that I handle is taught me a lot, and just getting to work alongside him most days.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
A gift that keeps on giving.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
That's right.
No, that's what it takes. It takes somebody to be complimentary in the skills and do the shit that you don't want to do, and vice versa. Somebody that you trust, obviously, because it's a lot. It's a lot to take on. It's a long hours, and you'll screw things up, and you'll do things that'll cost you a lot of money.
Yeah.
But one of the best things that I always heard is like, I'm assuming you didn't go to business school like me.
I did, but
she went to business school.
Well, that's good. That's good.
You did not pay for it. Just stop.
That's good.
That's not true.
That's good. I wish I could go back and get my degree in business.
But you have so much more hands-on. You want to work after business school in the field and then just run the business. That's where the learning occurs, really. The business degree is a check in the box, and
right.
It is what it is.
but when when you screw all that stuff up and you do things that cost you a lot of money, just look at that as a tuition cost.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you're still, you're still good. You didn't have to pay 50 grand to go to spend 4 years.
Well, yeah, and I've thought a lot about that. I even thought about going back and maybe getting my MBA or something like that. But the reality is thinking back in that aspect, I don't think if I had a business degree, I would have, there's very few things I probably would have done better. I would have still made the same mistakes that I made. Summer, she'll continue to make the mistakes that she makes regularly. I'm just joking. But, I don't know that it would have changed that much. And I think it would have, for me personally, I think it would have just been a matter of essentially I won't say wasting time. You're going to get something out of going to school. There's no doubt about it. But as far as a practical application, I'm not sure that it would have been all that beneficial.
Yeah. I think if I would have gone, I wouldn't have opened up a gym because I would have known better.
Yeah.
I would have not start doing the calculations. Like I need how many people at whatever rate to get me there. And then I'm like, ooh, probably not, man. Like,
see, that's where we compliment each other because he's got all these great ideas. And then I start doing numbers and I'm like, no, that doesn't work. That makes
her
no
numbers are a little
sense.
skewed in the wrong direction. I will say that. But no, you're absolutely right. If like I knew that starting this business, if we could break even, we'd be doing really good. I mean, the gun industry, especially the training industry, and especially, when I first got into this, I was like, hey, we're going to get government contracts just like everybody that starts a training company thinks. And that was 2015, right when Obama just cut all funding. I knew that I could use my contacts. Well, I started trying to use those contacts. And it was like, bro, all our funding is gone. We can't spend any money anywhere. And it was pretty much like that forever. But, I knew that this was going to be a business of, I don't know, I'll be able to buy my guns I want, pretty much. That's what I'll be able to do.
That was the ultimate decision criteria for me. It was like, okay, well, I don't know if this is going to work. And I really don't want to put a lot of money into it. So my initial investment was $8,000, and that was a loan off my 401k. And then I was just like, which to me was a fucking massive amount of money at the time, just 100%. To buy gym equipment, which nowadays that's like 8 rotors.
Yeah.
But anyway, so it's just like, well, if it doesn't work, I'm going to have a sweet home gym the rest of my life. And that was literally like what I was like, okay, well, if awesome. Well, then I'm good to go. Let's try this out.
That's the dream right there, having a nice home
gym.
Well,
that's our next selfish business prospect. We're going to build a big metal building, have a showroom, do all that stuff, have a packing area and shipping area, and then have a really nice big gym.
Good. There you go, man.
We have to drive 30 minutes to go to a decent gym and then drive 30 minutes back. That's an hour gone out of our day every day.
And the more difficult it is to go to a gym, the easier it is not to go.
Yep.
100%.
Yep.
100%.
I saw Michael Hen commented on the new training calendar. Gary was wrong as usual earlier. The entire training calendar is not up. We're still going to be scheduling some low light courses, the everyday concealed carry courses, a mid-range carbine course. Mm-hmm. So we got a couple of things to add.
Don't ever contradict me in public again. So we definitely got a couple other I won't say little. We got some of the other advanced courses that we're still waiting on, but the majority of the schedule is up without a doubt. So I know one of the big things was handgun and carbine courses beyond what we already had for long range. So they're up there. Go jump on them, sign up. Med courses, folks. If you haven't taken a med course, take a freaking med course. Mm-hmm. You will save a life. 100 times more likely to save a life. 1,000 times more likely to save a life with a med course than you ever will a gun course. I saw another question here real quick. Where was it?
Somebody mentioned the Gundies. Is that
so 7 PRC or 6.8 Western. Which was 7 PRC? The ballistics pretty close to one another. 7 PRC on paper looks better than 6.8 Western to me. And I also think that we're going to see a much greater adoption because that is a Hornady product. We're going to see a much greater adoption for that in general. So I think that ultimately, I would be surprised if 6.8 Western lives very long. But again, both because of the competition and Hornady and a couple other factors going forward, I think 7PRC is the way to go on that.
Can I ask
you
you
guys?
a question?
Yeah, go ahead, man.
So I got like a 6 acre little place right on the river. I just bought.
Yeah.
And I found my dad bought me a 22 when I was 10 years old, and I found that. And dude, I've just been like shooting the 22 in the field, and it's just like completely reinvigorated me for like long gun. So, but I'm a cheap bastard, and all I don't want to pay for is 22 rounds.
Sure.
So, recommendation on a nice, just 22 long range, just for shooting stuff in the field.
So Ruger makes some pretty nice 22s. I'll tell you, man, 20. So if you're not familiar with PRS and the IRL, they're two competitive, but
Competitive series.
yeah, competitive series. But 22 has become a huge thing with that. So, you have these guys out there with $15,000 into a 22. They got a $6,000 optic on a 22, and they take this super serious and is super competitive. So they're coming out with some really nice 22 rifles. Ruger makes some. There's a few. I'll do some research. I'll send you some stuff.
Yeah.
But there's never been a better time to get some high quality 22. How cheap they'll be, that'll be a question. But there's definitely some, under $1,000 22 bolt guns or whatever it is that you want. There's options out there. We'll talk offline. And I'll figure out exactly what you're wanting, and I'll be able to give you some recommendations on that. It's no big deal.
Yeah, man, because it's great. Like there's a little built overhang with the deck that looks out in the field, and I've got like a little target set up, and I just like take a break from email, go out there and shoot a couple dozen rounds and clear my mind and come back in the office. It's pretty sweet.
Yeah, man. And that's another thing. I don't know about you, but to me, there are very things as therapeutic as just getting out there and doing some shooting, whether it's, just out there plinking or getting out there and doing some serious training. There's a lot to be said about that as well. And that's another reason I'm pretty passionate about getting more people involved into shooting as well.
Looks like Hunter's saying Bergara makes a nice one.
Yeah, Bergara does make a really nice one. There's definitely some options. Like I said, you can text me a kind of a price point that you're looking at, and I'll find something for you.
Great, man. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and like I just told you offline, we'll definitely have to get you out here to do some shooting.
Yeah, no, I'm going to take you up on that.
We'd love to have you out there, and like I said, maybe we can even find a range and do something out that way. That'd be fun to do, kind of a mobile. That'd be fun to do a mobile course out that way too. Get out there and do some Midwest shooting, no doubt about it. All right, folks, we got any other questions? Going once, going twice. Well, listen, Dale, look, it was great to get the opportunity to talk to you. I appreciate you taking the time. Maybe we'll have to schedule something to do this again, 6 months.
Yeah, man.
Like that, and check in on you, see how you're doing, see what else is going on. Hopefully we'll have you out and out to the range a couple times between then. But yeah, man, we appreciate what you do. I think you are a great example for many veterans out there and human beings in general. So keep doing what you're doing.
Yep.
No, Gary Summer, thank you so much for having me on. And just by the fact people are tuning in and commenting, it's the biggest thing. One of the most important things you guys could do is build a community around your business, and it definitely looks like you've got that in spades. So congrats, man. It's good to see good dudes out there doing good things.
Yep. All right, you guys go hit up DocSpartan.com. Look out for the documentary Small Town Strong. Is that right?
Yep.
Coming out this year. All right.
Yep.
Anything else?
If you haven't watched it, go find. You can definitely find clips of it on YouTube. I know because I've watched them.
You got to see the Ranger
the
fans.
Doc Spartan Shark Tank. It's a good shark. I still think it's probably the best episode out there.
Yep.
I agree with you.
Yeah, no, it really is, and definitely they make a lot of great products. Definitely jump on there, support them. Go buy some of their merch. They make some sweet hats, all the other good stuff.
Thanks,
All
man.
right. Thanks, Dale.
Yeah, man. Well, it was great
See you
talking
guys.
to you. All right.
Yep.
We'll see you later, man. And
Take care.
folks, we are definitely going to have a podcast tomorrow with covering self-defense law. So I think that will be very enlightening with it. And again, we're going to go over what is legal, what is not. We'll parse through and get a genuine certified legal analysis on kind of what went right, what went wrong with that Houston shooting. But the big thing is, folks, here's the reality, folks, is we can defend ourselves, and we can do it in a way to where we get to go home. And that's what it's all about. I don't necessarily agree with many different laws when it comes to gun regulations. I think you guys know how I feel about that. But that doesn't change anything. That we can pretend that there's a reality that where it doesn't matter how I conduct myself, but that's not true. And on top of that, I really believe that we need to understand that there's optics involved too, right? So when we go out there, we do something that you might be completely justified, but it looks so horrendous that it can affect everybody's else's rights, and we need to be conscious of that. I think we're going to continue to see blowback from this Houston incident, and I definitely, if you guys hadn't heard, he was actually referred to a grand jury. We're going to see what comes of that, and look, I genuinely hope that he doesn't get charged with anything. I think he had a right to defend himself. I think he did everything right until that fifth shot, and things got a little out of hand. I don't think that changes. I don't think it even would have changed the outcome, but it definitely changes people's perspective of people carrying guns.
Yeah.
That could have been a great case study on why it's so important to carry a gun.
And now it's turned into something.
And now it's
completely
going
else.
to turn into something controversial. Anyways, make sure you tune into that. Knowing the law is important, and being able to handle that firearm, be able to think about what's going on around you, be able to tactically analyze. All of it's important. It's all about training and education, and we're going to do our best to help you guys with that and bring you the real information with a real lawyer. So, anyways, folks. We always appreciate you guys tuning in. You guys are awesome. We always appreciate the support, folks. By the way, I just filmed the orientation for our online training, the Paramount Training Academy. I will be releasing stuff with that. I think you guys, I'm really excited about this. We're going to be doing something awesome with this, even from the initial concept to what we are now realizing that we can put into this. It's going to be an amazing product, and you guys are going to be able to, we're going to be able to provide you some real training, essentially virtual personal training, and it'll be good. So make sure you tune in. And for those of you that have already signed up, look, we really appreciate your support. For those of you guys know who you are. We appreciate you. And we're going to make sure that we're going to not only bring you a great value for that, but again, it's going to be a good thing, and I'm excited about it. All right, folks, I'm going to let you guys go. We appreciate your time. As always, stay armed, stay ready, and we will see you back here tomorrow at 7 p.m. Do not miss it. Tell your friends about it. All of your Barstool lawyers, make sure they show up. Come check it out. It's going to be a lot of fun. So we'll see you tomorrow.